And skateboarding's in a really tough place right now. Shops are struggling. And so to start a new skateboard company right now and trying to elbow your way in, shops are only buying the stuff that they can sell, and their backs are against the wall. So the possibilities are endless, but a lot of these new companies that start wither and die the same way they did back then, whether it's mismanagement, bad time in the economy, some kind of scumbag partner ran off with the money, it's all the same stories. Or it's just, we've got a team, we've got one really well-known pro and two guys you've never heard of, and the guy who's well-known just blow out his knee. Now what? So it remains very hard. It's easier to start a company. It's easier to get the word out, easier to get clips out and sort of like elbow yourself a seat at the table. But in terms of success and having any kind of staying power, that's still real hard, for these brands to last, whatever, 5-6 years and establish some kind of market share, whatever you want to call it. It's still really hard. And I pulled the 5-6 year thing out of my ass. I mean, it might be 2 years. I think people's attention spans are so limited now that it's so much more of a "what have you done for me lately" mentality. Where are the clips? Where's the video? feed me. But it's like, does the company have a vision? Does the aesthetic match with do they seem original? There's a lot of intangibles that aren't just about the talent of the team. So yeah, it's you see these companies come and go, including some amazing ones.
Yeah.
And so there's always a backstory as to why, but it's very hard to get afloat and stay afloat. But everything else is the same. Fashion is the same way. Whatever. Sassoon jeans was riding high in 1979 and they go away. There's all these, it's fashion. It's trending and what's hot now, and certain brand, Deluxe is very good at keeping things steady. The backbone that company's built on is very reliable. People trust them. They make good product. They don't sell you shitty wood. And so there is a pattern of success from them, regardless of what brand it is,
Yeah.
But not everybody has that, and so you got to start somewhere and sort of try and establish yourself with that kind of same reputation. It's tough. Well, it's in a tough spot financially.
Yeah.
And the way it seems to me, and not that it matters what I think, but the way it seems to me is people have been convinced over the last couple of years that the economy is tight, that things are tough out there, and skateboarding is fueled by disposable income. Because there's adults like us that can make our own money and buy our own decks, as whenever we can afford $60-65 or whatever it takes. But most of it, the entry level stuff and the stuff for whatever 15, 16, 17, 18-year-old is parents are going to hook me up, hopefully, or help me out,
Yeah.
And when the parents have been convinced that the sky is falling and the economy is toast, then they're going to be less confident to spend something on what they consider to be disposable income. No, you can make that other board, that flexed out board, last another 3 months, 6 months, whatever it is. And so skateboarding itself is doing great, but the brands and the economy of it and shops are struggling because they're having a hard time selling decks, they're having a hard time selling stuff because parents and adults have been convinced that the economy is in a tough spot. When the whatever they call it, when consumer confidence is down, skateboarding is very badly affected. Don't get me wrong, I love Instagram. Instagram's fucking awesome. I get to connect. I get to see all this artwork by these artists that are either really famous and see what they're working on, or completely unknowns. I get to see all this amazing work getting put out there in the world at my fingertips. I get to get really inspired by this amazing shit. There's people doing amazing shit all over the world that I get to look on my phone to see instead of having to go through a newspaper, let alone go to a museum. The reach and the things you're exposed to can be so great and beautiful. And, I follow the U.S. interior feed and just the photos of all the beautiful parts of this country. It's stunning. So I'm not one of those people that's just going to say like, yeah, it's all horrible and it's rotten and and the sky is falling and I'm old and crotchety. It's not as simple as that. Instagram is a beautiful tool. For me, it's a great billboard on the side of the road that I can throw on there whatever I want, and some people will pull over and look at it, you know? Great tool for artists. It's also, I need to be very careful so that all my time doesn't vanish into it, because it's an extremely shiny object that I can light 4 hours a day on fire on there, no problem. And I won't have very much to show for it sometimes. And so I just need to make sure that my time is being spent on things that I can be proud of, you know, that I can, whatever, look back on and not be embarrassed by. So I think there's a healthy medium in there somewhere.
Holy shit!
I found out about a entry-level job opening at Deluxe where they needed like sort of a production artist basically. And a friend of mine who at the time worked at Slap Magazine, my friend Jamie Riley, he told me about it. And so I hustled my portfolio together and ran out there and showed it to them. And I don't think a lot of other people applied to the job, but I also told them that I was friends with Nadas. And I was being interviewed by Jim and Tommy, among other people. And they're like, okay, well, if he's friends with Nadas, then he can't be that big kook. So let's give him a try. And then once I got in, I'm like, and it paid nothing, you know, it was a very low paying job, but it was a dream job. And so I just said, I'm going to outwork everybody around me. I'm going to be on time every day. I'm going to take this job super seriously because this is a blessing. And the real world had kicked me around pretty good by that point, and I had not had many blessings in terms of career blessings. And so I grabbed a hold with both hands and didn't let go. Well, they called it a production artist.
Okay.
But you know, the Deluxe art department was so small, there was just 3 of us. Okay. So the difference between production artist and art director was like one person quitting, you know? So I wound up, they described it as production art, but I was doing a lot of the color separations for other artists' work, but also I was drawing a whole bunch of the Spitfire wheels. Like that was one of the entry things you did, was like Spitfire wheel graphics, which is ironic because they were that wheel company was and still is like the top of the industry. So like more people are seeing those than board graphics or whatever, but they didn't trust me to do any board graphics for a while. They're like, let's just see how his work looks on wheels and that sort of thing. And so I was doing that. And just doing, you know, sort of like color separations for the other art that was being produced, and did that for about a year. But then I started doing board graphics and stuff during that time, and it was going pretty well. And they realized that I didn't suck. And then the art director there, who was a graffiti artist, pretty well-known graffiti artist in San Francisco, he was up late every night bombing, you know, doing graffiti, and then he'd have to be at Deluxe at 8 a.m. every morning, and it was like he was burning out, and he was very passionate about graffiti, and he just wasn't that passionate about board graphics. And so he quit, and that just moved me into basically the art director position. And so I had to hire an assistant, and then it was just go time. It wasn't because I was so mega talented. It was because it was this tiny little art department, and I had proven that I didn't suck. But I think if they had said, hey, we need Deluxe, you know, needs an art department, an art director, and they'd put the word out that they were hiring, they probably could have found somebody better than me, you know, but they didn't. They just want to hire from inside, and I was cheap, you know, so, and the person that was going to work underneath me was also going to be cheap, and things were small then, so they couldn't afford to hire somebody for a lot of money. So I happily took the job.